Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT15, and BT15 offers us lots of new and powerful cards to be able to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be the Dark Masters deck. So the Dark Masters deck is another hard play style deck where the idea is you're going to be slamming your level 5s. Your level 5s are going to dig out your level 6s and your level 7s. Then you're going to have the level 5's end of turn ability to be able to delete something and put a level 6 into your raising area so that next turn you could move it out and digivolve into a fast level 7. There's a few solid ways to be able to support Dark Masters, even though Apocalypse or Apocalymon, their big boss monster, is going to be limited to 1 with the March ban and restriction update. The deck is nowhere near dead and does have some pretty decent flexibility. So the big weakness of the deck is the fact that, well, it is a hard play style deck, so you're going to be playing your cards, and because you're playing your cards, not all of them are going to be super cheap, so you're going to end up giving the opponent a decent amount of memory in the early stages of the game to be able to set up, develop, and line themselves up for really big plays a little bit sooner than they normally would be, if they actually have the proper setup to be able to take advantage of the amount of memory you're going to be giving them. Then, because of how the way the deck works, your cards won't always have inheritable, so they're going to have a minimal amount of impact, and some decks actually can take advantage of the fact that you don't have any inheritable abilities or strip what few you have away. So the deck isn't necessarily super foolproof, but it is a really fun and interesting deck to play around with, allowing us to be able to utilize some cards that might not have seen play otherwise. So with all that said and done, let's just dive right into the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitamas, I'm only going to be running 4 copies of Mother Reaper as the only Digitama. So it might seem really strange that Mother Reaper is the Digitama for this deck, but what we're utilizing this card for is just sacrificial fodder, just because it's an egg that we actually can move out and it counts as a Digimon on the field. So that way we could try to use it to delete instead of our level 5s, so we could use our level 5s to not only set up a new level 6, but to digivolve into one as well. And speaking of the level 5s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of each of the Dark Masters related level 5s. So that's going to be 4 copies of Lady Devimon, 4 copies of Gigadramon, 4 copies of Scorpiomon, and 4 copies of Cherrymon. On the top half, all of these cards are the exact same, where they all have an on-play ability to reveal the top 4 cards of our deck, add 2 level 6 or higher cards from among them into our hand, and then put the rest on the bottom. Then at the end of our turn, we get to delete one of our Digimon, and we get to play a Digimon with Dark Masters in its traits from our hand to an empty space in our breeding or raising area for free. And then the only real difference outside of the color is just the inheritable ability that they're giving, with Lady Devimon giving Retaliation, Gigadramon giving Reboot, Scorpiomon giving Blocker, and Cherrymon giving Piercing. When it comes to the level 6s, I'm going to be playing each of the 4 Dark Masters. So I'm going to be running 4 copies of Piedmon, 4 copies of Machinedramon, 2 copies of Metal Seedramon, and 2 copies of Puppetmon. Just like the level 5s, they're all doing some very similar things in terms of their inheritable abilities, and their main abilities also are relatively similar, where during your turn, this Digimon can't digivolve into any other Digimon but a white Digimon. Then at the end of the opponent's turn, we get to delete this Digimon, and then we get to play one Digimon card with Dark Masters in its traits, other than the specific one that you're already using from your hand without paying its memory cost. So it just is allowing us to be able to swap between our different Dark Masters to try to fill up our trash, but most of the time we actually just want to try digivolving them into a level 7 right away. Then each of the Dark Masters do have their own on-play and when attacking abilities, where Piedmon lets us be able to delete one of the opponent's unsuspended Digimon, Machinedramon lets us de-digivolve 2 on one of the opponent's Digimon, Metal Seedramon lets us bounce a level 5 or lower Digimon back to the opponent's hand. And Puppetmon allows us to bounce one of the opponent's suspended Digimon to the bottom of the deck. And then we're also going to be running some more level 6s outside of the Dark Masters to try to round out what the deck is capable of. So I'm just going to be running a couple of level 6 ace cards because we are going to be sitting on level 5s at times, and that gives us the opportunity to be able to, well, utilize the Ace's Blasted Digivolution ability to Digivolve into them rather efficiently and being super disruptive towards what the opponent could do, while also being really cheap level 6 Digimon to just throw onto the field to, again, hope the opponent doesn't have the ability to remove it, so we could use it to Digivolve into a level 7 the following turn. So I'm going to be running 2 copies of Ebonwormon Ace. So Ebonwormon Ace has this on-play and when digivolving ability, where for each of our Digimon with Diva and 4 Sovereigns in its traits, we get to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon down, and then during the opponent's next unsuspend phase, all of their Digimon can't unsuspend. So at worst, it's going to suspend and stunlock one of the opponent's Digimon because it does count and see itself. Then its on-delete ability is some pretty decent removal, allowing us to be able to delete one of the opponent's suspended Digimon, which might not seem like it's the greatest considering you don't want it to die, but it's just some nice extra insurance in case it is going to die to trigger the overflow and remove a potential body. Then I'm going to be running 2 copies of Mega Gargamon Ace. This is going to be from the Double Typhoon starter deck, and this is an absolutely insane card at how strong it is. So its when Digivolving ability allows us to be able to suspend 2 of the opponent's Digimon or Tamers, and then your opponent's Digimon or Tamers can't unsuspend or Digivolve until the end of the opponent's next turn. So it's just another really decent way at stunlocking the opponent's field, way better than what Ebonwormon is doing. Then it also has a nice when Digivolving and at the end of attack ability, where we get to unsuspend this Digimon. So that way we could use it both offensively and defensively because it also comes with blocker and reboot. And then the last Ace card that I'm going to be running is going to be 1 copy of Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode Ace. So this has the on-play and when Digivolving ability to be able to suspend 1 Digimon, then unsuspend 1 Digimon, again, giving us really good offensive and defensive lines of play. Then it also has a nice all turns ability where once per turn, when this Digimon becomes suspended, we get to play 1 Tamer card or 1 Digimon with 4,000 or less DP from our hand for free, which we're going to be utilizing most of the time to help set up and accelerate playing out our Tamers for this build specifically. But the reason why I'm utilizing the Aces that I am is because they are multicolored, hitting multiple different colors based on our level 5s. And then when it comes to the level 7 lineup, I'm going to be running mostly Omnimons because Omnimons are just some of the best level 7s that we have to work with, given the colors that we're playing around with. So I am also going to be running the 1 copy of Apocalymon that we can, just because it is, well, interacting with our Dark Masters, so there's kind of no reason not to run it. So when this card would be played, we get to place up to 3 cards with Dark Masters in its traits with different names from our battle area or our trash underneath them to reduce the play cost by 4 for each one. So if we're utilizing the full 3, then he's going to be a level 7 that we're going to be hard playing for 3, having a slew of different abilities based on the inheritables we're giving him, which already makes him really, really strong. Then what makes the card even better is the fact that at the end of your turn, once per turn, we get to place a level 6 or lower card from our trash to the bottom of its Digivolution source to activate the on-play effect of the card that we're adding underneath. And then we get to trash the top 2 cards of the opponent's deck for each of the level 6s in its Digivolution source. So just by utilizing the 3, we're already milling 6. Then at the end of the turn, we're going to be getting a 4th, milling 8 the second he comes down, which is partially what makes him really powerful, on top of the usability of a lot of different on-play abilities that both our Dark Masters and our Ace Digimon could have. Then on top of that, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Omnimon's Wart Defeat. So this is probably the most important level 7 in the entire deck because it just is one of the most usable because of the alternative way it could be played out from our security for free. Even though you don't get the battle, just getting a free level 7 on the field could be very, very disruptive towards what the opponent is trying to do and put a lot of extra pressure on them. He also is really cheap to digivolve into, on top of having a nice when digivolving ability to delete one of the opponent's Tamers, which is nice having some extra Tamer removal, and an on-delete ability to be able to delete one of the opponent's Digimon, really de-incentivizing the opponent from wanting to delete him. Then I'm also going to be running 4 copies of Omnimon's Wart. So Omnimon's Wart is a little bit more expensive to digivolve into, but he's still a really decent card at helping facilitate the deck's overall game plan, because when we digivolve into this card, we get to trash the top 3 cards of our deck, and then we get to play up to 2 play cost 8 or less purple or black Digimon from our trash for free. Then on top of that, he has a nice when attacking ability by returning a level 6 from his Digivolution source back into our hand. We get to delete one of the opponent's unsuspended Digimon with a play cost of 12 or less, which is just some nice added removal. And then the last level 7 of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Omnimon Merciful Mode. So this is just another high usability card because it could digivolve on top of our other Omnimons, or we could use it on top of some of our other level 6s because it has 4 different colors that it's interacting with, and 2 of which we're actually utilizing. But when we digivolve up into this card, for each mega level Digimon in this Digimon's Digivolution source, we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon, which is already pretty decent in terms of the removal, while also acting as some good grave hate, because then we get to place 10 cards from the opponent's trash to the bottom of their deck in any order, which could potentially disrupt their overall game plan. Then it also has a nice ability where at the start of our turn, we get to trash the top card of this Digimon, basically de-digivolving himself, and if we do, we get to trash the top card of the opponent's security stack, also potentially burning the opponent, making it a little bit easier for us to be able to win, having alternative forms to deal damage. And then when it comes to the Tamers, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Tai Kamiya and Matt Ishida from BT5. So this is going to play around with the fact that we're already wanting to use a lot of different Omnimons because it has a nice ability giving our Omnimon Digimon security attack +1 on all of them, which is really, really nice to allow us to try to push the overall aggression. And then it also has a nice ability to help us generate some extra memory, where at the start of our turn, if the opponent has a level 6 or higher Digimon in play, we get to generate 2 memory to allow us to be able to make our plays. And then the last Tamer of the deck, which is another flexible card that you could kind of swap out and be whatever you feel like you want it to be, is going to be 2 copies of Louis. So this Louis is really nice at being able to utilize our raising area because our level 5s are trying to put our level 6s in there, and his on-play ability allows us to basically move that Digimon out. And then he also has a secondary ability for when our Digimon moves out of the raising area to the battle area, we get to suspend him to gain an extra memory as another way to be memory efficient. But that's pretty much it for the main build. I know the deck is extremely unconventional, not running any low-level Digimon, and also not running any options. But that's because based on this style of build, we kind of just don't need any, because our level 5s are trying to set up our level 6s, our level 6s are going to be where a lot of the disruption is going to be coming from, and our level 7s are going to help try to disrupt even more, while trying to help push the overall aggression and close out the game. And because of the way the deck is built, it doesn't exactly leave a whole lot of room for us to be able to run any low-level Digimon or options. That's not saying that the deck can't incorporate any, it's just I had a hard time fitting them in based on how I was playing my build. But the deck does have a whole bunch of other useful cards that you could think about utilizing to be able to customize the deck to your liking based on what cards you have access to, your own personal meta, and what cards you actually like and want to favor. And then the deck isn't necessarily getting direct future support, but we do get some pretty decent indirect future support with some other really decent level 6 ace Digimon that fit within our color combinations that we could incorporate into the deck to spice it up and make it a little bit more powerful or effective based on the abilities that you're trying to gain out of these ace cards.